Hello, colleagues. We are continuing our dialogues with very interesting and professional people around the world. And today I have a very special guest, Eric Gozlan. Eric Gozlan, one person in which work and which views I am looking for, I'm oriented for. Eric was born in 1964. After studying economics, he was admitted to the third cycle of the National School of Magistracy and worked in the banking sector and at the Council of Europe for many years. He is a government counselor in the Middle East and Africa and works as a civil diplomat. Mr. Gozlan has always been interested in social and interreligious relations for some time, thinking it possible to reach peace through religion, since war often starts from it, informs his work on facilitating interreligion dialogue in France and abroad. Mr. Gozlan was recently appointed by the King of Roma as ambassador for his issue for France and received the Medal of Peace in Romania. Eric is often invited to conferences for peace to provide expertise on pressing issues. He has participated in many meetings on peace and in dialogue in Korea, Russia, United States, Belgium, Bahrain, England, Italy, Romania, Nagorno-Karabakh, Ukraine, and many countries. He received a distinction from the Prince of Belgium for his work for peace in September 2018. Mr. Gozlan contributes to several international newspapers and recently published a work following a request from Vatican. Hello, Eric, and thank you very much for your agreement to take participation in this dialogue and for sharing your opinions for Ukrainian and around the world audience.
Hello, and I'm very happy to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Eric. I am extremely sure that your views should be very interesting for our audience. Of course, the Russian intervention to Ukraine was extremely surprising for us, and it was something unusual, impossible for modern world. From our Ukrainian side. How do you feel before the war? Was the war a surprise for you?
It was not a big surprise because we saw, as Biden said, we saw many military training around Ukraine. And we know Putin, what he did for Crimea and other countries. So it was not really a surprise. The surprise is now when we see how is the Russian army. It's not a so big army, but for me it was not a surprise. I was sure that Putin. All the time I will speak about Putin because I do the difference between the Russian people and the power. We don't have to put all the Russian are not like Putin. So what I said that when I saw that Putin put all the soldiers outside of Ukraine, even with the COVID, so the meaning was that we want to go to the war. And what was very interesting was that Biden knows how the whole Russia works before the communist Russia, and he understood that Putin is a part of this old Russia, and we have to remember that Biden works at the American Congress against this Russia. So he understood really what is the meaning of Putin. So it was not a surprise.
But the possible calendar of this intervention was changed many times. We remember that the first date was somewhere in November last year, and then December, January, few days in February, and it looks like there was not a final decision for that time. That from maybe in start point it was the policy of pressure to Ukraine, to Western partners, and then when this pressure wasn't worked, was adopted the decision to intervene to Ukraine. And it also a problem for us Ukrainians, because when we heard about the possible Russian intervention first time in October, November last year, we was very serious to this information. And then we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and it happens that many people and our governors didn't believe in Russian intervention at all because of many changing of these calendars. Was it Russian strategy, or it was a part of behind the curtains dialogue between the Russia and Western partners of Ukraine? How do you think?
No, I think before the war, Russia gave an ultimatum to the European Union, to the States, and to Ukraine. The ultimatum was, don't go with NATO, put off your guns, that the NATO must take off all the guns. So the European and the Western world didn't accept that. So I think I was not in the negotiation, but I'm sure that some negotiations set up in this time. And in the same moment, I'm not sure 100%, but when I see what's happening now in Ukraine, I think that many Western countries in this time gave some guns to Ukraine. So it was a preparation for the two sides.
Okay, how do you think, what is the true position, nowadays position of European Union and France regarding the Russian invasion to Ukraine? Because we listen and hear a lot of different things. We see how many European Union announced to do to Ukraine, but we don't see a lot of real things to the Ukraine. What's the problems inside of European Union, inside of maybe French policy, and what is European Union and what is France is going to do with it further?
Okay, I will start with France because I know more. For France, especially the President Macron wanted to be the negotiator, to be the chief of the negotiation. Don't forget that in the same month we had the election for the president in France. So he wanted to be the negotiator. For that, he spoke all the time with Putin and with your president. But he understood at the end, and perhaps some weeks ago, that there is nothing to discuss with Putin. And that is the wrong way. So now we can see that the French government sent some guns to Ukraine. And a day ago, we saw that the French army sent some tank guns to Ukraine, and Ukraine start to use that in the east of Ukraine. It's, I think, 50 tank guns. So, and today, the French government said that, sorry, they will send some material for new technology. And we know how it's important, the new technology for the new war. So it's important. So we can see a change from from France. From Europe, we have another problem. You know, Europe is so complicated with 27 countries to have one decision. So we saw that some country of Europe sent guns to Ukraine, for example, German sent, but there is no really consensus about Ukraine, and that is the problem. And for that, all the time, I will give you an example about the gas. They say, okay, we will stop the importation of the Russian gas, but in a few months. That means that when politicians say something like that, that means that they are not agree. They do not agree between them. And we have this problem in Europe that we don't have any united army, not yet, even if Macron wants to do that. So many countries, they're afraid from Russia because they receive many importation from them. So the situation in Europe is very bad for that. And we don't have any consensus, even if the chief of Europe will say, yes, we are speaking in one voice. But in fact, we see that there is many voices to Ukraine and not one voice.
Of course, we understand it. And moreover, today I read a comment of one of Ukrainian officials who said that some European politicians, like French president, propose us to give Putin's part of Ukrainian territory for obtaining peace. Ukraine is officially and criticizing the French peace proposition, and of course we understand that it was election, and moreover Macron is trying to compete for the leadership inside the European Union after Merkel out of political system of European Union. Many problems, but we understand at the same time that on the one hand, people's lives of people and security or future security of whole Europe, and from the other hand, the level of life of European countries. And of course, for us, it's more important lives than the prices in energy sector in European Union. How do you think sanctions at all? Is it necessary and effective instrument for finishing the war or not? Do sanctions lead us to the peace or not? Are they very effective to Russian economic or not? How do you think?
Okay. Sanction for Putin himself, it is not a problem. It would be rich and is too much extremist for that. Sanction will not stop the Putin's war, but sanction will help for the peace, because the Russian people start to be, it's enough for them. The price is terrible. I spoke with a friend in Moscow, and he said, for example, that a small Nokia is $500 now. So it's really a problem. And the European Commission say, I think yesterday or this morning, that the American government said that Russia cannot pay its debt in dollar. So it will be a problem for them. So sanction is important. Economic sanction is very important. But we have to be very careful for that. Because we know that in Russia, the press is not very free. Not really free. So people, most of the Russian, I don't speak about the people from Moscow, the intellectuals or the young people, but people from Russia, for the country, they hear only the Russian TV. And they think that European or America put some sanction against Russia only to win them, not to stop the war. So at the end, I think that we have to continue with the sanction, but we have to be very careful because the Russian must to continue to eat and to buy food. For example, I will give you an example. When Visa, they stopped to use the Visa card. So for all the oligarchs, and it was not a problem. They have many cash and they have many money. But all the time I'm thinking about the poor guy or the poor family, that they can buy food only with the Visa card because they will pay at the end of the month. They don't have enough cash. So we would have the problem with them. So we have to, the Western world must to, I don't know how, but to explain to the Russian that we will stop all these blockades, all this sanction when Putin will go on.
I absolutely agree with you because Western sanctions, they are not selective enough. Yes. And for example, Russian middle class, which wasn't vote for Putin, never, people. And they lose their credit cards, they lose their possibility to travel abroad, and they become like victims, hostages of Putin for nowadays.
Collateral victims.
Moreover, talking about Russian oligarchs, there are many oligarchs in Russia, but they are not equal oligarchs. Many of them, not of them, have very successful business abroad. Talking about Abramovich, for example, with his Chelsea and many things. And I think spreading sanctions for all Russian oligarchs made them very dependent from Putin. But Western countries should check each oligarch by one and choose half of them most close to Putin and sanction them. And it will be a problem for Russia because in Russian society, Russian economy should be the sanctioned oligarchs and not sanctioned oligarchs. They competing between each other. It should be clever policy. And moreover, we should see at Iran or North Korea or even early time Belarus, sanction will not the straight way to change the policy of regime. We should understand it. It's very influenceable instrument, but it's not sometimes it works on the totalitarian regime even more than this regime wants, and the situation will go to the bad way.
And the problem that Putin doesn't care about his people. That is the problem. It doesn't care. So they will not have money to buy food. Okay, that is not his problem. But the example of German was very good. They give sanction to the what's his name? A politician who was prime minister, because he still work with Schroeder. Sorry, because he still works with Russian and with the gas society. So we have to give sanction not only to the Russian, but to the European and American who still work with the Russian power.
Yes, absolutely agree. And one dangerous thing more, I'm thinking about it every day, that trying to block Russia, many voices from the West are talking about this, about the denazification, demilitarization, denuclearization of Russia. Also will lead to formation in Russian society mind, Russian public opinion, position that this war is a war for the Russian existence. And it's also a very dangerous thing. So we all together in this sphere, we should think how to show Russian society another way for realization of their ambition, for some realization. But we should demonstrate this is not war with Russia, with Russian people. It's a war with Russian political system, Russian regime. It's very big dangers. I think many people in West don't understand that this war became the war for existence, not only for Ukraine, but also for Russian people in such circumstances. And of course, we understand that doing against Russia has good influence for Ukraine, but maybe the best way to help to Ukraine is it's a right way, straight way, just help to Ukraine. How do you think there are important decisions, for example, trade decisions between Russia and the European Union? How do you think, how real is Ukrainian membership in European Union nearest years? And how real is more active participation European armies in the Ukrainian-Russia war? Eric, do you hear me? Eric, do you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. It's okay?
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear my question?
I want to. Yes. Okay. I know the question. So first, I will come back to the propaganda. I think, as you know, we saw many demonstrations of Russian people against the war. But the problem that in the European TV, they didn't show enough those manifestations because the European people must understand that many Russians are against the war. So for Ukraine and European Union, it will block, but it will take many years. That is the problem. Even that is the problem of the administrative way of life of European Union. But what I suggest that European Union can do an exception because Ukraine is an exception that is already a So for me, not with the just statue, but like an affiliate member, because the Ukrainian people must understand and must understand that Europe wants them. So, and the Ukrainian people will understand that it's a long way to go in Europe, because for Euro, for many things, but to have the first step, to show directly the first step. Okay, we are not married now, but you start to be a part of the family. And we don't have the same money, but you are a part of Europe. And it would be very very hard thing for Putin too. So I think it would take perhaps 6-10 years to go in Europe, but Europe must do something for the first step. It's very important. And for that I think that the Ukrainian must show to the Europe people that they are for Europe. For example, they can put some flag, European flag, to show that we feel as European.
We have many European Union flags in Ukraine, in many public places. Of course, but at the same time, we should understand that Ukraine and many other countries going to the membership of European Union not only wanted to be like just a member of European Union. They wanted the high-level standards, the standards of living, the standards of democracy, the standards of economy, and maybe we should think over, taking in account that this way should be long way in this situation. We should think over about the different type of initiatives, how to grow Ukrainian democracy, Ukrainian economy, Ukrainian standards of living in Ukraine outside of European Union till that time. And I think it's more perspective way and the more real way for these days, because we understand that many countries inside of European Union from many sides are not ready to accept Ukraine. From political side, Ukraine is too big, too heavy, and the center of decision making process will go to the east if Ukraine will be a member of European Union. Ukraine and Poland and many other East European countries are taking advantage on the old Europe in many situations. And talking about the economy, of course, we understand that the European goal in this sphere is to level the social standards in all Europe. And of course, Ukraine needs a lot of money to go up this level to the level of another European countries. We understand these problems, and we should think over about very effective and real political formats on this way to the membership in the European Union. But in any case, how do you think when in the future Ukraine should become a member of European Union? And is it possible to obtain this year status of a candidate to European Union? How is it?
I think yes, but the demand can come from Ukraine too. They have to ask, and not only the politician must to ask. I think that the people of Ukraine, all the political parties must to ask. And for that, I think that your president must to change a little bit, because I really like him, but he's speaking alone. He's alone. We don't see no more the member of parliament. We see only 4 ministers, no more. For example, when we speak about the problem of the children, the school, so we saw in the Western TV the president speaking about that. But we need to hear even the Minister of Education. Mm-hmm. We have to hear the opposition of the president, even if the opposition now is for the president during the war, but for the European, we must to hear that. And it would be so helpful if the president, the head of the opposition, the member of the parliament will ask with one voice, we want to be in Europe.
It's hard to disagree, but we will try to come back to our peaceful negotiation, peaceful topics. You have a great experience, professional experience. You worked in many countries, many problems of wars, separatisms, and so on and so on. How do you think? Do we have which we have prospects and models for peaceful settlement based on your international experience in Ukraine? What we should do just now for obtaining the peace?
Okay, so in Ukraine, you had a problem before the war with Donbass. It was a problem, and you have, even after the war, to continue to work on this problem. So for me, and with the organization where I work, ICDD, we think that the most, how to work with peace, there is two ways to work. The political way, the normal way, but I don't believe in that because we saw many wars. It's important, but we have to work with the civil society to show what really the civil society wants, to hear the civil society. For example, in Donbass, there is too many sides in the Donbass. Someone wants to be Ukrainian, some of the groups don't want to be Ukrainian. So first they have to sit. We have to help them to sit together, to find something common between them, and to start to speak. That is the most important thing, is to speak. Even if you don't agree with the other people, to speak, to see that the other is not is a human being like you. And with the social media, we can work. And with the civil society, I think it's so important to hear the civil society, because sometimes they think different. There is a different way of thinking of the government. So the two negotiations must be together.
Do you know successful examples of such type of negotiation between civil society?
Yes, I will give you the first example that the camp with the Israeli and the Palestinian, the Oslo Accord. At the first time, it was people from the civil society. They worked together, and after they go to to an agreement. So even with the Middle East now, with the Abrahamic Accord, so many people spoke together. Israeli and Arab spoke without government authorization. And they spoke. I remember 8 years ago, I was in Bahrain and I met the king. And he knows that I have two nationalities, Israeli and France. And he knows that. So, and after, when he came to France, I organized a meeting between the king and the Jewish community. So a part of the civil society and the official. And we start to discuss like that, how to find something common. So, and when I'm working in Africa, in Guinea, for example, so all the time working with the civil society to start to build the bridge. And after the government would sign the peace agreement, sure, but the government will follow the people.
Of course, but how to make security for these people and how to implement such dialogue at official political level, I think it's always problems. But Putin said that there is no problem between Russians and Ukrainians at all. We are fighting against West. We are fighting with the United States. We are broken the old monopolar world architecture. How to use civil diplomacy in such situation where when the politician standing at very high, very global goals?
Okay, so I think with Putin, so when he said that he's not fighting against Ukraine, we saw where is the Russian army. The Russian army is not in Paris, but is in Ukraine.
You're right.
So the fight is in Ukraine. Okay, so for the war that in Ukraine, we have to think for after the war. Now, Putin, we have to do a unity of the country outside of Ukraine. All those people, those countries, and there have to be a unity between those people and the civil society of those people. For example, I will give you an example. We spoke with our NGO 2 weeks ago, and we sang to organize a meeting, an interface meeting of all the country with Ukraine, all the near Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. And neighborhood countries.
Yes. And it would be an interface. We have two choices, the interface or with the woman. It's very interesting to work with women. And all those people will speak in one voice to say, we are with Ukraine for many reasons. And one of the reasons, we are afraid for our country. So we have to be together and to show to Europe that all the country, all the neighbors are afraid, and we want perhaps to discuss with Putin or with the government. I understand that it would be very difficult for the Ukrainian to discuss with Putin, but all the people, all the neighbors can speak with him. And when he will see that all the civil society of all those countries are against it, that means that the government will be against him. He would try to think, or not Putin, but the Russian government would think.
Okay, it's very clear. It's very interesting. As I know, you worked with Vatican. How do you assess the initiative of Pope Franciscus about holding a global peace conference? Is there any chance of it happening, and when it can be what result of this conference can be expected? How do you think about this global conference initiative of Rome Papa?
Okay, this global initiative, so the Pope said that he want to speak and blah, 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 but no more.
No doings, no preparation.
No, and he didn't insist about that. That was so funny to see that, okay, I am against the war. I want to go to Moscow, but we didn't see anything.
Maybe he need help?
Yes. So for that, when we spoke with our organization, we think that the interface meeting, we will ask the help of the Vatican if they want to be with us with that. If they don't want to be, that is the problem, the Vatican's problem. But we would ask them, and we would ask the Orthodox Church, the Jewish community, the Muslim community, and the non-believer, because it's a part of the community too, and to help us to even to show that the people for all the religion are together against this war, and they have to think how to prevent a future war in this region. That is very important, to think, to prevent what would be the next war and how to stop this war before that they would start the war.
And how do you think is this initiative is personal initiative of Franciscus, or it's something more? Because what I'm asking about this, because at the same time, a few weeks later, Italian government passed to United Nations his peaceful plan on Ukraine. Is it a common game or not? How do you think?
No, I don't think that is a common policy between Vatican and Italy. No, it's two different policy, and they don't want the same thing. The Italians is speaking as a European country. The Vatican is speaking of the Catholic country, of the head of the Catholic.
Catholic world. But there, in the Italian proposition for peace, there is also the idea of global conference.
Yes, but you know, the problem with this Pope that is alone in the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
Is really alone, and is sick and alone. So that is his personal way of view of the conflict. I think he really wants to do something, but I don't think that he can.
Okay.
Because many people from the church are against him. That is the problem.
And Russia should. Is it possible that Russia used Italian government to check the situation in the world? Is the world ready to make some kind of peaceful agreement which help Russia to save that occupied territory which she obtained in this 3 months war?
You know, we had the same conversation in Europe when Israel did this proposal to discuss, even to invite the people to Jerusalem to speak. When Macron was the moderator. So I think Italy will be another moderator But Putin would ask Italy how many divisions.
Of course, it's the usual way to for Russian policy.
Yes.
Yes, of course. For France has many divisions, and about Italy, it is a question.
Yes, and Italia cannot do something alone. Italy is member of Europe.
Okay, one more important question for me, like a Ukraine expert: why United States and European Union, also with China Republic, are not around the table in Russian-Ukrainian peaceful dialogue? Why they are not a member of this dialogue?
So the question you have to ask to the Russian and to the Ukraine government, if they accept them or if they want direct conversation. That is the first point. To ask the two parties if they agree with that. The second thing, I'm not sure that it would be good if America would be around the table, because they would come with all the American power and they would not think like European people. And the first thing they would say, okay, you do not agree with me, okay, you will receive some sanctions. And so I think, and for all the conflict, the best thing is a direct conversation. Russia and Ukraine, they are not children. They can decide for themselves what they want. After the European and the states can do some pressures, economic pressure, that is normal. They can help. Okay, we will see that you respect the treaty and or the deal, but it would be impossible. I don't think it's good if they sign the deal, because the problem is between Russia and Ukraine.
Absolutely clear and honesty, but I think the war and conflict is going on different levels. Yeah. Russia, West, regional conflict, local conflict, and we have the same situation like it was after the Donbass war about the Minsk negotiation, when Ukraine, Russia, and OSCE, with moderating of OSCE, trying to find some kind of solution. And then we saw the Minsk Quad, Germany, Russia.
It was only blah blah. They didn't do anything. The Minsk agreement.
Yeah. Because not all the participants of this conflict are around the table. Yes. And sometimes it looked like when the sides of conflict made agreement and they push the hands, then somebody outside of this dialogue broke such type of agreements. And nowadays we have the same risks in the dialogue between Ukraine and Russia. Any agreement between our countries without support, official support and participation from European Union, United States, China Republic, will not be fulfilled like a Minsk agreements. It looks like.
And we have another problem. The interest of Europe, the interest of the state is not the same interest. Ukraine and Russia, they have other interests. So it's important. I don't say that they don't have to participate to the negotiation. They can help, but the most important person, the person who will sign the decision, the deal, will be Ukraine and Russia. And even if the states of or European Union can help the Ukrainian by pressures, by many things, but the final signatory may be the Ukraine and the Russian one.
Of course, and we are coming back to your previous position about the role of civil society. In this situation, of course, the civil society is only possible way to do something. Maybe you are right. Eric, maybe you should want to add something or say something. We are working more than 40 minutes, and maybe I something don't haven't asked from you. Feel free to say what do you want for Ukrainians and people who are interested and very careful in Ukrainian situation.
So the first thing that I want to do, I want to go back to the civil society and to the Donbass situation. You have, as Ukrainian, to prepare. I know it's very difficult to hear, but you have to prepare yourself to the after the war. Okay, if tomorrow we will have the peace, and I hope that tomorrow you will see the peace. So, what you will do with the Donbass? What would be the negotiation? That is so important to start to think about that, to prepare the future for your children, even if you know if this war would be long. But you have to use this time to prepare the future. We see now that Ukraine is one. Even people from Donbass, most of the people from Donbass are for Ukraine. So you have to think about new relation between people from Donbass and from Ukraine. The second thing that I want you to say is that what I see in Europe, most of the people, 90% of the people, are for Ukraine. And if you open, the TV in Europe, we will speak all the time about Ukraine. And that is very important that the Ukrainian people would know that the European people and the American people all the time is thinking about you. And because we are the same people. And I think you are European in your blood. You are thinking like European, and you must be in Europe. That is so important. We didn't speak about NATO as a special thing, but you are a part of Europe, and I hope, really hope, that in some years you will have the European passport.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much for this dialogue and for this support and for this hope for Ukrainians. Eric Gozlan, co-director of International Council for Diplomacy and Dialogue. I hope to see you in the future again for this dialogue, and I think we'll continue this. Thank you, Eric, very much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.